The deadly detox. In early January 2016, a 47-year-old woman in England decided that this new year would finally be the one where she cleansed her body. She was healthy, active, and stressed after the holidays, so she tried a strict detox. Huge amounts of water and herbal teas, plus a handful of all-natural supplements every day. For several days, she lived mostly on liquids. On the kitchen counter, she lined up bottles of herbal remedies and strong teas and refilled glass after glass of water, convinced that if she flushed her system hard enough, the tiredness and low mood would disappear. At first, she only felt a bit lightheaded. Her family assumed it was caffeine and lack of solid food. Then the warning signs turned into a crisis. One afternoon, she stood up from the sofa, swayed, and suddenly crashed to the floor. Her body locked into a violent seizure, arms and legs jerking, while her jaw ground uncontrollably. By the time paramedics carried her into hospital, this previously fit woman could not answer simple questions, staring blankly as her muscles twitched. Blood tests revealed the real problem. Her sodium levels were dangerously low. The extreme fluid intake and supplements had diluted the salt in her bloodstream, causing severe hyponatremia and swelling in her brain. Doctors rushed her to intensive care and spent hours carefully balancing fluids and salt, watching for permanent damage. For more than 10 hours, she hovered on the edge between recovery and catastrophe. She survived, and her memory slowly cleared. Later, doctors published the case as a warning. Her New Year's resolution had almost killed her, not because of some mysterious toxin, but because she had overloaded her body with water and remedies that seemed harmless. Turning the calendar to January had made an extreme plan feel safe when it was anything but. The year of marathons. On January 1st, 2022, 53-year-old Gary McKee stepped out of his house in Cleatormore, a small town in Cumbria, and started to run. His New Year's resolution sounded insane. Complete a full marathon every single day of the year to raise money for cancer charities. 26.2 miles, 365 times, while still working his job and looking after his family. Gary woke at 5 each morning, laced up his shoes, and headed into the dark, cold streets before his shift at the Sellafield nuclear site. Some days he ran alone through rain and sleet, headlamp cutting a small cone of light through the countryside. Other days he was joined by school children, local club runners, and visiting sports stars, until long lines of people in fluorescent vests snaked along the lanes behind him. By February, he had already logged 50 marathons. By April, he hit 100. His feet blistered, legs ached, and there were spells of illness and injury that sent him to doctors, but he never missed a day. He went through more than 20 pairs of trainers and ran over 9,500 miles, turning his local roads into a ritual. As the year dragged on and most people quietly abandoned their resolutions, Gary's stubborn routine turned him into marathonman. News outlets across Britain and beyond picked up the story. Donations poured in for Macmillan Cancer Support and Hospice at home West Cumbria. For many supporters who had lost relatives to cancer, watching him grind out another 26 miles in the rain became a kind of shared act of defiance. On December 31st, under gray skies and heavy rain, Gary set off on marathon number 365. This time the streets of Cleatormore were packed with cheering crowds and people running the last stretch at his side. When he finally crossed his improvised finish line, he raised his arms and smiled through exhaustion. His once simple resolution had raised over £1 million and turned an ordinary working father into a symbol of what a New Year's promise can become when someone refuses to quit. The Weird Meat Mission. At the beginning of 2009, a food blogger named Jeff made a New Year's resolution that sounded like a joke on social media. Spend the year eating as many weird meats as possible and document everything on his blog, Weird Meat. While friends swore off sugar or alcohol, he drew up a list of animals and body parts most people would never dream of ordering. Jeff loved travel and street food, and he framed the resolution as cultural exploration. On his list were slices of raw yak, skewers of crickets, an oversized ostrich sandwich, and even deer penis wine, a traditional tonic in parts of East Asia. He promised his readers he would try anything once, as long as it was legal and locally accepted, and he invited them to suggest new targets. Soon his posts became a mix of travel diary and dare show. There were night market scenes with neon lights reflecting off trays of glossy, spiced insects and smoke-filled stalls where unfamiliar cuts of meat sizzled over open flames. Jeff described how raw yak was unexpectedly tender, how grilled crickets crackled between his teeth, and how the deer penis wine had a powerful, medicinal taste that lingered long after the glass was empty. Sometimes the challenge was psychological rather than physical. He admitted to staring at a plate for several minutes, knowing that once he took the first bite, there was no going back. Locals laughed, slapped him on the back, and poured more drinks. Online, readers dared him to go further, both fascinated and horrified by each new photo. What began as a throwaway resolution became a year-long test of his nerves and his willingness to step far outside his comfort zone. By December, Jeff's list of strange meals spanned continents. He had not landed in hospital or triggered a medical emergency, but the resolution had still changed him. Eating was no longer just about taste or nutrition. It was about confronting fear, respecting how other cultures use every part of an animal, and accepting that the line between normal and disgusting is mostly in our heads. His weird meat mission turned into a story the internet did not forget. Workout gone wrong. In February 2025, in Henan province in China, a man in his 30s decided he was finally done with his post-holiday belly. After the heavy meals of Chinese New Year, he made a familiar promise. This year, he would get serious about exercise and lose weight. He had no gym membership and little experience with training plans, so he chose something simple he could do at home, push-ups and skipping rope. That evening, he dropped to the floor and forced himself through 20 push-ups in a row, then grabbed a rope and started jumping, heart hammering, breath loud in his ears. Sweat soaked his shirt, but he felt proud and went to bed, satisfied that his resolution was finally underway. The next morning, a sharp ache gnawed at the right side of his chest. Climbing the stairs to his apartment left him short of breath. He assumed it was muscle soreness and tried to shrug it off. As the day went on, the pain sharpened, and each deep breath felt like a knife between his ribs. Walking even a short distance made him dizzy. By afternoon, the sensation had escalated into something he could no longer ignore, as if his chest were being pulled apart from the inside. At the hospital, doctors ordered scans and quickly saw the problem. Air had leaked into the space between his right lung and his chest wall, causing the lung to collapse to around one-third of its normal size. The sudden, intense strain from his new workout had triggered a spontaneous pneumothorax. Left untreated, the trapped air could have built enough pressure to crush his lungs and heart, turning a basic fitness resolution into a life-threatening emergency. Doctors inserted a chest tube to release the air and watched his lungs slowly re-expand on the monitor. Lying in bed with medical tape across his side, he listened as they warned him against going from zero to maximum effort overnight. The New Year's urge to start all in had almost cost him his life. From now on, any resolution to exercise would have to begin with something far gentler than a single brutal workout. The bike ride into the Swan Lake. On January 25, 2021, Australian journalist Matilda Bosley left her home in Melbourne before dawn, wearing a fluorescent yellow vest and a brand new helmet. Her New Year's resolution was practical and sensible. Ride her bike to and from the Guardian office every workday. It would save money, cut her commute time, and maybe shave off a few holiday kilos. That first morning was rough. She underestimated the city's hills, arrived at the newsroom late, drenched in sweat and flushed red, but also quietly triumphant. After filing a story about water safety around lakes and rivers, she wheeled her heavy bike back outside and pointed it toward home, still determined to stick with her plan. By evening, a cool change had swept through Melbourne, and Albert Park Lake was packed with joggers and walkers enjoying the breeze. The regular bike path was crowded, so Matilda made a quick decision to ride along the narrow footpath right beside the water to avoid collisions. The scene was almost cinematic. Skyscrapers reflected in the lake, swans gliding across the surface. The sky streaked with late sunlight. Then her front wheel hit something with a hard thunk. The handlebars twisted, the bike lurched, and as she tried to correct, momentum carried her straight toward the low concrete wall at the edge of the path. There was no time to brake. The heavy bike slammed into the barrier and pitched her over it in one violent movement. She plunged into the cold, foul water of the lake, backpack, laptop, and phone still attached. Matilda surfaced in waist-deep mud and swan droppings, dress soaked, legs sliding on the slimy bottom. The walls were too high and slick to climb out. For several long, humiliating minutes, she stood trapped in what she later called a lake full of swan poo, holding onto her bike while joggers gathered above and debated how to help. Eventually, two runners managed to drag her back onto the concrete, dripping and stinking of pond scum. Her allegedly water-resistant phone died soon after, freezing on a selfie she took of her stunned, muck-covered face. Somewhere at the bottom of the lake lay her office lanyard, making it impossible to cycle into the building the next day, even if she had wanted to try again. Her New Year's resolution to ride to work every day had failed spectacularly on day one, in an accident so absurd that her Guardian column about it went viral around the world. In the end, Matilda's story was not about serious injury or death, but about how quickly grand January plans can fall apart. One tiny decision, to ride a little closer to the water for a better view and a faster shortcut, had turned a careful, sensible resolution into slapstick chaos. The path between New Year, New Me, and what on earth just happened had been only one bad wobble of a front wheel apart.